Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So Space Engineers has a new update and that is 1.199, and the Heavy Industry DLC pack is also out and available. So let's take a first look at what we get for these update and the DLC together. Alright, so update 1.199 does offer a few things. And as you see here written on the screen, we get some improved parking brakes, improved toggle power. Nothing too important in my opinion. But of course, we have added 64 armor panel blocks, added a 1x1x1 small grid merge block, 2 magnetic plate blocks, which kind of act like landing gears in a way, 3 LCD poster panels, and lastly, added a new Pertam orbiter scenario, which should be pretty interesting. Right, so update 1.199 does come with the free stuff, and free stuff being these panels here. So the panels do come in many different forms. You have the light armor panel, you also have heavy armor panels, which you'll see the two difference in design right here. So you'll see a difference using the new skin from the DLC pack. You'll see that it's a more cleaner look here, and this one has more of a armor design on there in that sense. And it does also come in small grid variation. As you see here, dropping them, I have small grids here of these things here, these slope ones and everything like that. So that's pretty much cool. That's pretty cool. Has all these different types here. Just for the sake of it, just put in heavy armor plates here, and you'll see all the different designs that they have. So you have, of course, your regular cubish looking one or square one, which is a heavy armor panel here. You do have the quarter panels. You have a heavy armor half panel, and of course all these variations of slopes. A half panel 2x1 tip left, and then you have this half panel 2x1 base left, and this one is the tip right, and that's the base right. And of course you have half slopes, and of course half slope you have regular 2x1 slope tips, slope base, and just a generic slope. There's all these kind of variations of slope, kind of similar to like windows in a way, except they don't have these kind of half blocks here. But yeah, all these panels look pretty cool. We do have these kind of angled panels, so these are panel sides. It's another panel base left side kind of thing, left and right tips. So these are like the smaller. I already can see a pretty cool design with these things, and of course that'd be like making planes and jets and things like that, or adding kind of wings to it. So these are pretty interesting to have. Again, free from the update, so more design aspects to the Space Engineers game itself. Other than that, we mentioned they have new merge blocks. So merge blocks being these tiny little guys here. So now we have these small little cubes for merge block, other than having these fairly large version of them when we have a small grid. So they connect perfectly fine just as is, as you see there. A little bit of design to it. It looks very similar to the larger variation of it, but I see a lot of uses for this. This is pretty cool. And then next we have these little tiny things that they called magnetic plates. Super thin plates, and these pretty much act very much like landing gears, right? So this is the bottom side that we're looking at currently right in front of us, and this is the top side. So that means if we were to find a way to flip this guy over, it will connect to the ground really easily. So if I were to drop this guy this way, as you see there, initially it's kind of that teal color and then turns green once it gets locked in, because exactly like a landing gear itself. And of course they have the larger version of it. So this is large grid version. Looks the same from the small grid version. This is pretty much the attachment side on the top side, and this is the bottom side. This is where it connects to the floor or things. So that gives us an opportunity to make designs for landing gears a little different, or at least a way to land in that sense. Or of course what I would like to do with them is make them into crane systems. So then we have something like this with our previous crane system, where we put a magnetic plate to you know, kind of grab anything we can, basically. So if we were to, let's just pop something down on the ground here. Let's just say that for an example. We can easily get into our crane system here. And we can just move this thing over a little bit, if I remember the controls. And we can easily just click right into it like so. Now we're dialed in. And we have a crane system, or a magnetic crane system, where we can grab stuff fairly easily. And again, it acts very much like a landing gear, so it makes it look a lot better than sticking a landing gear in the front of the crane system like that. So we can do a switch lock, and that way we can just drop it like so, and we can always grab it again too. So that's a pretty fun use of the magnetic blocks. I'm actually excited to have these. I see a lot of potential in designs, especially my crane designs. So we can also use that to break these crane systems a lot better than you know, piston with a landing gear. We just do a piston with that piece to lock it to the ground, and then move the top section along the way, and it's not as chunky in that sense. All right, so that's pretty much the free stuff, other than the LCD posters. Not going to show those. You can easily find those on the LCD panels and things like that. The per time orbiter scenario, we'll probably check it out. If we find it fun and worth recording, we'll probably make a video out of it and post it. But if not, it's part of the update. It's free, so you guys can pretty much enjoy it as well, as long as you have space engineers, of course. Alright, so the DLC pack itself, that's where it gets interesting. So there's always a question of, is it worth getting? Is it not worth getting? I honestly always get the DLCs. But of course, you know, when you gotta say, is it worth it or not, that's really up to you, depending on what's available in that DLC. So this DLC pretty much has a few reskinned items here. So like the large magnetic plate, it's similar to what we just showed you with the thin little piece, but this one's a little bigger. We have some beam blocks, industrial conveyor pipes, cylindrical columns, vertical button panel, large hydrogen tanks, reskinned, cargo containers reskinned, industrial refinery, industrial assembler, which actually look amazing, and then the reskinned hydrogen thruster, and also the hazard pattern armor skin. Alright, so the heavy industry magnetic block is actually this thing here, which is actually quite big. It's actually, let's see here, 1, 2, 3 wide and 2 tall, basically. Yeah, 3 wide, 2 tall. It's quite big in terms of what it is, but it still looks fantastic to put on a crane system, to be honest. So we have here, this is the magnetic portion over here, the smooth little section here, and this is the attachment section on the top here. So this one is connected to ground on the bottom here. Same concept, similar to like a landing gear and everything like that, or the other magnetic plates. And the same use we can do with it is put it on the crane system, and it looks a little bit better than that little stumpy thing here. And of course, you could design it in more different ways, but this was just a basic plop onto my crane system and see what it looks like. But it functions the same way. It's just a lot thicker in some way, a little bigger compared to the free version of the magnetic block here. And the next piece is the cargo container. So they decided to reskin the large cargo container, which looks pretty cool. It has a lot of details here. It looks like a locking mechanism to the port here. And it's all around the same, all around the sides the same. And then you have this kind of bottom and top is the same as well, which doesn't have too much design. But this looks pretty impressive. I like it. It has kind of like these little designs everywhere, which is pretty cool. So it's definitely going to add more designs to our ships and rovers and things like that. And yeah, the next thing to talk about is pretty much what you probably saw on my board there, pipes galore. And the reason why I say pipes galore because there's a ton of pipes in this DLC pack. So this DLC pack does come with these pipes, which is conveyor tubes or pipes, and there's so many different variations of them here. So you have things like this one is the conveyor pipe junction, or conjunction as I call them, so pipe conjunction here. And we have a industrial conveyor sorter, which looks really cool. Has a lot of details here. And this is pretty much right side up. This one is upside down, so you can see the bottom of it. And even these guys itself has its own little pipes too. And that is why I would call this the Pipes Galore DLC pack. And yeah, other than that, there's all these other versions of pipes. You have conveyor pipe ends. Here's one upside down and one right side up. I don't know which one is which, but that's the ends of him. You have these flanged ones. So there's a bit of a lip here, or whatever they call it. Or maybe that's why they call it flanges. And it's, here's one upside down and one's right side up. And of course the regular piping, which is this pipe here. And of course there's a cross pipe version as well, which kind of mimics this one, the conjunction pipe, but it looks a little bit better in that sense. The other cool part about the reskin is this guy here, which is actually a industrial assembler. So the design of this is pretty cool because it does add a bit of a catwalk automatically in the system, the assembler system, and you have these pretty nifty buttons as well. Although they're not, pushable or touchable, but they just look pretty cool in terms of design. And once again, you have all these types of pipings along the assembler as well. So you see here, this is right side up. You see where the portholes are, or the ports are, and of course you can add mods to the system too. You can add the mods on top and 2 on the sides here. Can you do it on the bottom? Yes, it is available on the bottom as well. So if you build a variation of it where you can put it on the bottom, that kind of works out too. The assembler itself has a whole bunch of piping, as you see, as I mentioned before. A lot of details too, and this is a pretty cool reskin. But the next piece, the Refinery, looks amazing. So the Refinery here, again, pipes galore. A little bit of a thruster looking like thing here, right? And it has all its ports on this, pretty much the similar sides here, and you have your module areas or ports here too. But the cool part is that they add their own kind of catwalk and ladder system so you can get to the very top. And this is just design purposes, and you can climb it. There's not much you can do here, but it is definitely a nifty idea because you can always add either catwalks or blocks onto the side of it, like so you can climb up to it, or if you have like extra space to get to the second floor, this is a definitely a good way to do it. Or it's just not wasted space in a way, right? So if this was kind of connected to like a platform, at least we can climb up here to the second floor of the refinery and then get to the pretty much the whole platform on the second floor. So that's a nifty design. That's pretty cool. That's something pretty new, these Space Engineers, to add a design such as this. And yeah, this is definitely a cool thing to have. The next piece is this hydrogen tank. So once again, pipes galore. You have pipes here, pipes there, and it just kind of goes up to this kind of vault looking like hatch. And of course there's a ladder system, but of course you can't climb it, unfortunately. It would be cool if you could climb the ladder. So if you did do a placement and just climb up the ladder, that'd be awesome, but it's not possible in this thing. But I put one upside down so you can see what the bottom looks like. And yeah, it's a hydrogen tank built with a sphere shape. It does have the LED lights here to show you how much hydrogen's inside. And the ports are only on top and bottom, so there's none on the middle or the sides here. So that's a bit of a difference, but these definitely look cool. And you can probably make it look cool with an exhaust on the top to make it a little smoky too, if you want to do something like that. Yeah, other than that, we have not a pipe, but a design thing called a column. So previously we would only have a basic column such as this here, interior pillar, basically. So that's mostly what we've been using as columns or anything like that, or maybe blocks, or we used the rounded armor blocks here to kind of make a column, but it's a little thicker. and they finally made a cylindrical version of it. So that is a good plus, because I mean, again, we only used pillars back then. We used blocks, and also I forgot to mention we used to use wheels too, but we couldn't color them because we could only weld up us to a certain portion of it, because we didn't want it to show the rubber piece of the wheel. So now they finally added the cylindrical pillar, which is awesome. I would definitely like to use this a lot in a lot of my builds. Alright, so they did also add these things called beam blocks right here. So these are kind of steel beams, basically. They have all different kind of designs here. Beam block slope, a beam block rounds, and a beam block 2x1. So yeah, all these different things here, and there is a lot of potential here. I've seen it used as like a front bumper. I've seen it added as added design on walls and ceilings and things like that. So you have like exposed beams and everything like that, which is kind of the cool things to have nowadays, I guess. But these are cool extra design factors that is definitely useful. You can always change the color. I just made it into this very shiny silver for whatever reason. But yeah, these look cool. I think if you're doing like a warehouse kind of situation or heavy industry, these are kind of cool designs for those. And of course, lastly, we have another reskin, and that is the hydrogen thrusters. So once again, pipes galore. A whole bunch of pipes surrounding this hydrogen thruster. This is the large grid version, the large grid version. As you see here, that's the bottom. Here's the size. You get a bit of a tank here with a little bit of a gauge. You show pretty much that's, I guess, that's where they store the hydrogen. And then this is what the inside piece looks like, which looks pretty cool. And there's all the versions of it. You have the large grid, you have the small large grid here. Same design, nothing different about it, it's just smaller. And then you have the small grid version of them. The large small grid one looks exactly like the large grid variations, as you see here. Pipes galore, a little bit of a ball there. The bottom piece looks a little bit different, as you see here. Not a big difference, just a minor difference. But the small grid version is definitely different, as you see here. More a little bit of a piping situation going around the whole entire thing, and you'll see that the difference in design here is pretty significant, actually. So actually, I don't know why, but they could have done the same exact thing to this one, the small grid large version. I think that would look cool, because it's unnecessary to have the same designs as the large one. But definitely a cool reskin for the hydrogen thrusters. And if you're curious what it sounds like, I think there is a bit of a change to it, to the sound. I'm not sure if you can kind of hear that, but it sounds more like a burning sound than the previous hydrogen thruster. Alright, so that definitely is a cool reskin. And of course, we've been using the hazard armor skin, so that's new part of DLC, which that's where you'll see the black lines, basically like so, with your color scheme. So you can change it to, I don't know, maybe an orange color and do that too if you wanted to. So that's the armor, that's the kind of new skin that's available with the DLC. And the last thing to touch upon is going to be this button here. So it's a red button, an industry button, an industrial button, and it comes with 3 buttons that is pressable. So you can press the big red one, the 2 small yellow ones, and if you go into it, you'll see down here 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 buttons you can group here, and then once you hit it, of course, you have your actions that are set up. But of course, there's a reason why they tell you not to hit the big red button, and that's because this can happen.